and that is to make that system secure, one where cheating and interference are not just difficult, but virtually impossible. Unfortunately, the system we have today falls catastrophically short of that standard. Tonight, I'm announcing the immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence revealing shocking vulnerabilities in our election infrastructure. This evidence shows that the election system we have dangerously exposes and really exposes like levels never thought possible to hacking, exploitation, and foreign interference. Just as disturbingly, this vital information has for many years been covered up and hidden from you, the American people, our beautiful, our great American people. But that all changes right now. The documents we will release starting tonight have been gathered by the White House Government Transparency Task Force, a great group of people, along with the staff of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, supported by our top intelligence agency chiefs, who have all personally reviewed the findings. We are presenting this evening and fully confirmed their authenticity. You can see these documents for yourself at whitehouse.gov. That's whitehouse.gov. Go check it out. Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing. The documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data.
And now we're going to bring the mayor on. We'll play more of this
resulting in
throughout the
China's
show.
illicit
But let's bring the
acquisition
mayor on
of
for some reaction.
220.
So, Mayor, what did you think of the president's big prime time address? My goodness, I don't even know what time it was for you.
Well, I thought the address was earth-shattering in the sense that it is probably some of the most important news of the last 3 or 4 years. It certainly creates, beyond a good faith basis, for everything that he pursued in 2020, 2021, and thereafter. It certainly creates a good faith basis for his lawyers and investigators and all the people that worked on his behalf to attempt to dig up more evidence when the Chinese conducted a enterprise to try to defeat him, elect Biden, and it was hidden by the FBI running a shadow government, according to an FBI agent. China, the documents appear to, one, show that China was working for years on the ability to gather the information to fix an election. Number 2, that they did interfere in the election, and that the FBI has, and the Biden and people and Democrats are so nervous about this, they've kept it covered up this long. So now they can't say there was no evidence, substantial evidence of cheating. Not only was there evidence of cheating, there was evidence of what they also would act as if someone was insane if they said it, foreign interference in the election. Do they remember that? These are the things for which myself and my colleagues were sued, prosecuted criminally, and bankrupted. And as well as in the case of those of us who are lawyers, our ability to practice law was taken away from us. I was disbarred in 2 places, in the Washington, D.C. and in New York. And you would say, well, you probably don't want to be a member of the bar of each. They're proven over a period of time that they are in essence inherently corrupted by the fact that they support only left-wing lawyers and do horrible things to conservative lawyers and conservative causes. But it happens to be, it isn't necessarily those people I wanted to be associated with. It was my right to go into court and argue for people, which I was pretty darn good at. I mean, I tried a heck of a lot of cases. I never had a problem in any of them of that kind. And I had a career as a lawyer that would be free of any question of my loyalty, my ability to act within the framework of the ethical bounds of the law. Um, there were very, very few claims against me of any kind. I'm not sure there were any to the Bar Association. In the Justice Department, there were one or two, but you're going to expect that when you're prosecuting people, and they were all resolved in my favor. And I think I'm not self bragging by saying I was the most consequential prosecutor of the 20th century. If
I'll
not the most
say it.
consequential mayor,
You
if not the most
you're the most
consequential mayor.
consequential. You're the most consequential prosecutor, maybe in American history.
And my home base was New York, and I was the mayor of New York. And I don't think during all the time that I was mayor, I ever agreed with the New York Bar. And if I did, it was on mine. I also hold them responsible for the corrupt judiciary that we have and have had for most of our existence since the creation of the Democratic Party. Since back to Boss Tweed to now, more often than not, New York has been corrupt and the judiciary has been rotten because they are politically appointed. They're not elected. They're an embarrassment to the legal system. Of course, having said that so often never made me very popular. And I never thought before the hearing officer that I had, the old woman that I had as a hearing officer that was a retired Brooklyn judge. All you need to hear is Brooklyn judge. And if you don't know what that means, I can't tell you. But I knew from the day that it started and until the day it was over that she was going to rule against me. She sort of indicated that by paying more of attention to her cell phone than to me. And she did ask me on the record, did I respect the court? And I told her no. And of course, you would say, well, that's kind of stupid if you don't want to get disbarred. But I knew the opinion was already written. Look, let's face it, this woman makes her living by being appointed as a master, they call that, to sit on these hearings for the Bar Association. If she had ruled for me, she never would have gotten such a thing in her life again. Now, if you don't know that, you don't know New York, and you are infinitely dumb. That appointment came from the Bar Association and from the court. From the court, really, the court is all Democrat, all Democrat. And in a political case, it rules all Democrat. In other cases, some of the judges are honest, some are corrupt. Too many are corrupt. On political cases, they're almost all corrupt. And they proved it. And this Chinese evidence proves that Trump had every right and has every right now to question the conduct of that election. And with the other evidence, all of which has been ignored and you haven't been informed of and not reported on, he has more than enough evidence in enough states of clear fraud that's outcome determinative. I used to say at one time that I could tell you the result in the states. And it turns out when that was redone for several states, including Wisconsin, I was off by less than 1%, but right about the fact that Trump had won. So this is going to require substantial investigation about China. And I would recommend, don't be foolish enough to think that this isn't connected to the $20 million minimum that China gave the Biden family, within 18 months of that election, or around 18 months of that election. Like they gave up that money for nothing. Now they got some other things in return. You could say it was to get us to close the airbase 400 miles from China, which no American president who was an honest, loyal American president would do. You have to be a traitor to have done that. I will defend that proposition in front of anybody. You tell me why an American president in the second decade of the 21st century would close an airbase which had just been modernized 400 miles from China. Oh, and 500 miles from Russia. Oh, and 400 miles from Iran. Well, I know Iran, he might do it for Iran because he gave billions of dollars to Iran and Obama before him. But China? Iran is Iran is now in I would regard a spin. They're spinning. There's no clear government. So I spent the last 2 days with some of the most knowledgeable Iranian experts in the world who have had about as clear a picture inside Iran as anybody from outside Iran because of the tremendous surveillance work done by the MEK and Madame Rajavi's group. You also should know that two of my speeches were broadcast all throughout Iran. The one at the parliament and the one in front of the rally. Well, definitely the one in the parliament. I'll check on the one in front of the rally, and I'll check on the one today, which was at an Italian think tank, one of their foremost think tanks. And it was not really as much a speech as an address as part of a panel. But that it could be that all three were broadcast in Iran. The first one definitely was. And I'll kind of, it'll kind of bring you up to date on what's going on in Iran without the censorship of the American newspapers. So I guess the first, if it's a new thing, one of the new things is that Iran is trying very, very hard to get the Houthis involved in the war so that they will do to the Bab el Mandeb Strait what Iran has attempted to do to the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the Bab al Mandeb Strait is the point at which the Red Sea flows into the Mediterranean. If it is called the Mediterranean, it would be the Mediterranean. And therefore, it's the way in which oil, not as much, but oil would generally come from Saudi Arabia and the more western parts of the Middle East. They are quite a bit less than the strait, usually. However, since the strait was closed, Saudi Arabia has diverted about 7% of what they of the 20 about 7% of the 20%. So that's a higher percentage, right? That's more like 40% of the oil that goes through the Strait of Hormuz now has been moved over to Bab el Mandeb on the western tip of the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. So you got the western tip of the Saudi Arabian Peninsula is Red Sea. Eastern tip is the Persian or Arabian Gulf. And they both flow down to ultimately to the ocean. The strait is used almost exclusively for oil that's going east, mainly toward Asia, mainly some to India. Although India, of course, is more amenable to shipment by rail or shipment by pipeline because it's inland. The southern the oil that goes through the Red Sea can very often be going to Western Europe. So they want the Houthis to cut it off. They have actually told the Houthis, they've been trying to get the Houthis to do this. The Houthis have won an interchange with Saudi Arabia. They claim Saudi Arabia attacked them, and so they attacked Saudi Arabia. The Iranians have announced publicly that they told the Houthis when they attack our energy infrastructure, meaning the U.S., then you close the Strait of Bab el Mandeb. Well, we did. We attacked their infrastructure yesterday and today, and the Houthis have done nothing so far. I think, the Houthis sort of gave up after America hit them for 3 or 4 days. I really don't think, it doesn't sound like the Houthis are as suicidal as the reign of terror. But I do think if they try to block the Bab el Mandeb Strait, there'll be no more Houthis, which of course was Israel's goal, and we kind of stopped them a bit and made peace with them, and it worked. The peace worked. They haven't been doing anything for a year. But question is, would they like to get? You want to get re-engaged, boys? Last time you punked out. You want to get re-engaged one more time? How many are you? 40,000, 50,000, 100,000? What kind of air defense do you have, Yemen? Really, like Israel? What kind of navy you have? Like 10% of what we have in the Middle East? I don't know. I could be proven wrong, but I'm not sure they're getting involved in this. They may want to be the one proxy group that survives. They can see what's happening to Hamas. They can see what has happened to Hezbollah, which was stronger than them. And I don't know. Let's see. This is a real test of whether Iran has any proxies left if they make the effort. I kind of wish they do, because their elimination would be enormously helpful to a peaceful world and a terror-free world. Out of this one, I mean, they're not going to reap for another day, which is why I was not in favor of an agreement. I'm in favor of we win, they lose. We win because they don't exist anymore, meaning the reign of terror, the Iranian terrorists. The attacks have been Iran's state-run electric grid. So even though it just started and the Houthis have not beckoned to the call of Iran to step in, deprivation of electricity to the entire country of Iran. By the time Trump is finished, there'll be no electricity in Iran. Tough country without electricity. Gaining power as the head of that electricity. There's a point at which is what we've discussed for the last 2 days. There's a point at which we have degraded the capacity and the personnel of the reign of terror, that it'll just have to go away. Then it becomes a sort of mini French Revolution, and the people take over. That's what's going to happen. That is what I spoke to today. This is
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine,
what that means is,
I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at t2t.org.
And we're going to come back. We've got Mayor Rudy Giuliani back with America's Mayor. And Mayor.
This is Rudy Giuliani, and we are, as I said, in Rome, Italy, beautiful Rome, Italy. And I was describing to you today the activities that I participated in, the parliamentary talk, the talk to the supporters and citizens that came from various parts of Europe to support MEK, and then the talk today at the Italian Institute, all of which, of course, touched on all parts of the Iranian situation, but the main focus of it was what happens after the regime of terror is out. Now, I know that seems somewhat presumptuous, but I do think if you watch what's happening, this reign of terror is deteriorating every day. Its ability to do damage keeps narrowing and narrowing, and right now it's close to focus just on certain points in the Strait of Hormuz. They create enough fear that certain number of people are afraid to go through, and until the fear becomes zero, no possibility, that'll remain. At the same time, the alternatives have proven to be remarkably robust, meaning that even with all the complaining and all the nervousness and the effect on the prices, et cetera, the effect on the price of both crude oil and gasoline and other products is at least half of what was predicted, probably more like 2/3 less. In comparison to other times we had situations like this, it's half to 2/3 less. There's a reason for that, because we have many, many more places from which we get oil than just the Middle East. The Middle East dominant position in the oil market is now dominates one of 6 or 7 major players. So the loss of them can hurt, but it isn't catastrophic. And the fact is, if we can those costs, within 6 months, we'd readjust to it and it wouldn't matter. So part of what I told you last night and part of what I did a little more research today is if we go 1 year from now, there will be a major pipeline that basically will take everything from the Emirates right across the Arabian Desert, Saudi Arabian Desert, and will be an alternative to the Gulf. They can go either way with the oil. They can go left or right, and that, of course, will take that and several other projects like that immediately reduce about get you down to the Strait of Hormuz accounts for about 12% of the oil. When Saudi Arabia finishes its pipeline, which will be a year after, we get down to about 8% of the oil has to go through the. And when Iraq, Jordan, possibly with Israel, not supposed to say that, get finished with theirs, which would be probably in Trump's last year, 28 or 29. you virtually could ignore the Strait of Hormuz, or you could use it as an extra place if Iran is now under a new government, which is what we discussed. It's discussed enough because it's suppressed by the people who are working for the benefit of Iran, either paid or ideologically or brainwashed and just want to be contrary and stupid, or Democrats. Like, exactly why did Biden give them all that money? Why did Obama give him cash? Gosh, that's a violation of the law. But well, not for Obama. I mean, the prince can't violate the law. But the reality is that for 40 years, 45, 46 years, and certainly for the last 30, there is a government in exile, constantly keeping current with extraordinarily well-respected people, vetted very, very much, particularly by the European Parliament and by European leaders, but also by most of our generals who fought the Iraq War. And that's called the MEK. And Madam Rajavi and the MEK is tremendously respected by those who fought the war in Iraq because of the tremendous assistance they gave us. In fact, every single one of them that was in Camp Ashraf in Iraq has a letter from America granting them protection, signed by an American officer, generally a general, sometimes a colonel. I have met many of them at various conferences for MEK who talk about how loyal they are to the United States, how helpful they were to the United States, and how dedicated they are to a democratic republic in Iran with a Bill of Rights just like ours, all guaranteed in a 10-point plan, with special emphasis, as you might imagine, on the right of women, because no group has been trashed, destroyed, persecuted, raped than women in Iran. You could take some of the worst horrible monstrosities of governments that we have, totalitarian torture governments like the gulags of Soviet Union or the camps in China. And they do some horrible things, some maybe more horrible than Iran. But with regard to women, no group has been more brutal, more discriminatory, more horrible to women. No group, even close, than Iran. And do you know the support the MEK or any of the other groups opposing Iran have gotten from the American major feminist groups? None. They don't care that they don't care that Iranian women have to wear the thing over their head in 100-degree heat, even if they don't want to. They don't care that they still stone women in Iran for adultery, or if they're raped. They don't care that women aren't allowed to serve in government. They don't care that women can be, without consequence, beaten to a pulp by their husbands. They don't care. None of the old Gloria Steinem groups or any of those other Hollywood feminist phonies care, because they're not feminists. Will you wake up? They're American haters. You issue women, exaggerate what America ever did to women, which is nothing like that. And they do it because they hate America, because they are either committed Marxists or brainwashed Marxists, or just stupid entertainers who want to be fashionable. And it's fashionable to say, kill Trump, because they're dumb. The only thing they do is memorize lines. They never did anything else in their lives. So the US is now engaged in a certain percentage of their attack, and for the last 2 days, a major portion of their attack, let's call it hitting the grid. The objective? Just think of this. No electricity in Iran. The next objective will be no bridges in Iran. Some major focus right now is still cleaning up back and forth on the shores of the Strait of Hormuz. so that they can't. We want to get to a point where we can guarantee they can't fire on anything. That'll take a while because a couple of hidden guns, that can be hard. The Japanese war ended up firing for 3 years after the war. When they end up in hills and mountains and who knows where, there can always be an errant gun here or there. But we want to get to the point where there are none. And you can sail through the Strait of Hormuz and you can go there for a pleasure cruise if you want. Second thing is to, let's face it, they're not going to say it, and I'm saying this as me only to force the regime out. Without electricity, without gas, without a light, how long you can keep the government in play? Well, when does the mob come in and throw them out like the French Revolution? And plus, they're getting killed. And I'm sorry, another part of it is constantly degrading the IRGC. Degrading is a nice word to say killing the IRGC. So I don't know how many members they have. I can't imagine that half aren't gone by now. We're working on the next half. And it seems to me this will get to a point that isn't scientifically determinable, but easily reachable under the just looking at history. This is the way these things happen. That this regime is going to, and unfortunately, the more the people are affected in their everyday lives, the faster that will happen, which is also very, very similar to the pressure on Putin right now, when for the first time people in Moscow see bombings 8 miles from them. People in St. Petersburg see bombings 12 miles from them. Those are big cities. Those are urban centers. And then the people all the way over in the Urals, in a place they never thought Ukraine can see, they destroy the entire power structure of Omsk. Whether it's exaggerated or not, because I don't have, on Iran, I'm giving you solid information. On Russia, I'm giving you information. I think it's true, but I'm not sure. But right now, currently, the pressure on Putin is enormous to end the war, to the point where they have reports he's going to be overthrown, he's going to be killed. Don't believe those yet. I do believe when you hear enough of that, it's got substance. We haven't heard enough of it yet. But it had to have been a traumatic experience for the citizens of St. Petersburg and Moscow to see bombs outside their city and have their power supply destroyed or interrupted. There is a very disturbing result that the president was very upset about, and I only report it as an indication of we really shouldn't allow this kind of thing. The operator of the president's teleprompter, Gabriel Perez, forever. I mean, I know Gabriel. The operator of his teleprompter is under investigation for betting on what's going to be said in speeches in advance. He earned $100,000 on one of those. He's under investigation by the FCC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. That's like the SE commodities, sort of a general trading of different kinds, because these groups, in a kind of dishonest way, they list themselves not as gambling sites, so they don't fall under the gambling regulations. They call themselves prediction markets, like it's an investment. You're making an investment. In a way, reality to that. The stock market, gambling, but in another, it is backed up by substance, not just luck. And if it isn't backed up by substance, that's prosecutable. Whereas gambling is just straight odds, right? But in any event, he has a couple of these, not just one. He did, according to the report, he did this prediction wagering for a dozen speeches, including the State of the Union address. The January speech that the president gave overseas gave to the World Economic Forum in Davos, and his December primetime address on ABC News. There, he predicted the exact words the president would use. They can so far see about 90,000 in profits, although they do say he won more than 100,000 on one. So I don't know exactly if that's accurate. These are known as mention markets. They really are mention gambling. And in order to win, you have to predict words and expressions that someone will say. In other words, someone, I don't know if I'm important enough, but maybe they wagered on what I was going to say at the Italian Parliament. But I think they have to have my exact words. Now that's tough because I never have exact words. First, I can show you the outline. It's not like a written out speech, it's an outline. And when they give me a written out speech, they might as well not. You bet on me. If you were my teleprompter operator, which is usually me, I operate my own teleprompter when I have to. You would have to live through things like the half hour of my opening speech to the Republican convention, where for a half hour I was off teleprompter, and the teleprompter guy was cursing the hell out of me because he didn't know when I was going to go back. It's not I don't like teleprompters; they bore me. What do I want to get up there and read to you for? Come to my house, sit down, I'll read to you. I'll read to kids and put them to sleep.
You're not a big teleprompter guy, Mayor. You're not a big teleprompter guy.
You're my teleprompter guy, right? How often do I stick to my teleprompter?
But Mayor, I didn't want to interrupt you.
I don't have. There's no teleprompter. The only teleprompter I have here is called my brain and Ted, and that's it.
Well, Mayor, we want to
go ahead. Bet on me. Come on. Go ahead.
Right. Well, we know you're just like the president. If you got up there and for some reason the teleprompter went out, all bets are off. You would do great. Well, Mayor, we have a very special guest tonight. I'm going to introduce her and then let you two take it away. Annabella Rockwell. She is with GOPcast.com. We're going to bring her on here. I want to make sure you guys can hear each other, and then I'll let you take it away. Annabella, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Tad and Mr. Mayor. Ciao, I should say, since you're in Italy. Can you hear me all right?
Mayor.
I can hear you, Annabella, but not in and out.
Ask her about
Annabella, can you hear the mayor?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm going to let you guys talk.
But wait, Ted, you got to make sure we're connected now. I can't hear her very well.
Okay. So, Annabella, tell us a little bit more about GOPcast.com.
Absolutely. And again, thank you so much for having us. So we have this very exciting platform. You can hear? Okay, wonderful. So I'm here to talk about GOPcast, which this show is streaming from live right now. In fact, our founders this is a passion project. They are committed, patriotic conservatives, and they found themselves going to Rumble, going to YouTube, going to Twitter, basically all these different websites to listen to their trusted thought leaders. And we're going from tab to tab, not sure what time everything was, kind of getting lost in, the ether of all of the different platforms. So what our founders decided to do is just bring everything together. Again, it's a direct pipeline of the thought leaders to patriotic listeners, GOPcast.com. I encourage everyone to go check it out. And what we have is a schedule of when every show is. So for example, right now, this pops up on our homepage. So everyone can just go and click it. You can bookmark GOPcast.com. That way you can easily go click on the link and listen to your favorite shows. We have many other, we have different categories. We have news, we have health, we have comedy. And again, it's all the top conservative leaders. And really what motivated this is that we're very concerned about the midterms, and we want as many listeners and eyeballs on your show, on Steve Bannon's show, James O'Keefe. Basically, we're trying to just get your voice out to as many Americans as possible.
That's just what I need, just what we need, and what I've been dreaming of for several years, because the media in this country is so biased. And in many ways, we live in a country that could be, for that purpose, a totalitarian country. We get just one viewpoint.
Well,
On
consider
the
us.
other hand, we have all these independent journalists now, and they have a fairly large audience if you add it up, but it isn't consistent. And this is wonderful that you're able to do this.
That was our thought exactly, is that so many Americans they're disenfranchised with the major media platforms, and they listen to the independent voices because, like yourself, you have the freedom to actually exercise your First Amendment. And that's what people that are voting want to listen to. They're listening to the independent thought leaders. So, this is your dream come true. It's easy. Again, gopcast.com. I encourage you to check it out, to bookmark it. And then it's so easy. You just go on and you click whatever's live, and then you can go back and see what shows are on the rest of the day. So it's really seamless. And
Annabella, can I get it in Rome?
of course you can.
I want 24 hours or.
Yes.
As soon as we come off, it's almost midnight here. I'm gonna put it on, and I'm gonna take a look at it. I'm very excited about this. Now, I understand, like me, but much more, you were a Democrat.
Once upon a time, in fact, I was a very progressive Democrat, Mayor.
Well, you were very progressive. Well, that means you were very retrogressive. So tell me the basis for the conversion. Was it like St. Paul once, and Ronald Reagan knocked you off and said, "Why do you persecute me?"
Frankly, 2020 played such a big role in it, especially the juxtaposition between the Republican convention and the Democratic convention. I just remember having this like aha moment. There were so many things, right? It was the perfect storm. But I bring this up because the Republican convention spoke about, their neighbors and the issues. And the Democratic convention, everyone that came on stage was like, I'm a woman or I'm Black and it was all about identity. And for whatever reason, that really stood out to me as, wow, you're not actually trying to help this country, help people. You're only pulling at people's emotions. And I was also on a spiritual journey. Fortunately, I made my way back to church. And I think in that, just having faith again, it kind of cleared my mind.
That's beautiful. I love that second part. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Go on. That's really lovely. Go ahead.
Well, I believe it's a trend, frankly, since 2020. You see, especially in young Americans, I see this all over, TikTok and Instagram, is that young Americans, all of us have, every man, woman, and child has a yearning for God, is my belief, is that it's within all of us. And, you have to seek it. It has to be filled. And I think that in our education system, especially in our very liberal college system, it gets filled with ideas like Marxism or feminism or, socialism, and people cling on to that. And I think in 2020, that really was exposed and brought to the surface, especially with everyone being locked down and having their rights stripped away, being forced to be vaccinated. I think just that instinct, so many people were like, wait, this isn't right. And they had to sort of shift and seek something else. And there's been such a cultural movement back towards the church and God, which is beautiful. And I think that also creates a healthy country. Our founding fathers were well-versed in the Bible and also had to study Latin so they could read it in Latin. And it's part of our entire foundation. We're one nation under God, and that's what creates us as equal. And it's just wonderful to see the culture shift that way. So
and when did you make you made this in 2020?
I would say 2020 is really when I shifted. And then I was so fortunate. I had also found PragerU videos, and I had the chance to go work for PragerU for a year, which was very exciting because they have done so much in the culture war. And again, they really understand that it's online, right? Which is why when GOPcast, when the founders approached me, I said, of course, I am so happy to be involved with something like this, because the culture war really is fought online. It's through the voices. And I believe in empowering the independent voices, again, like yours, because you're not beholden to, CNN that's going to feed you a script. So that's why I was very excited about this opportunity and this new website.
You example I talk about all the time, including in part my speech that I gave yesterday to the Italian Parliament. I used the whole Iran situation and MEK as an example of fighting for nation.
Yes, we are.
What both the communists and Iranian extremists have come together. In one case religious, in one case political, to end Western civilization,
Mm-hmm.
getting rid of God. It starts with getting rid of God. It's the first thing that Marx did. It's the first thing that extremists did. I'm a sun god, and
Mm-hmm.
I really feel it, that our civilization is being challenged. And I told the Europeans, with, including a guy from England, come in, I mean, you got to fight back for your civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to say to people, if you're an atheist and you don't believe in God, you're better off in a world where most people do,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to be good people. I can't think of how you hold the code together with belief in the Creator. I've
Right.
never seen one that works.
I always say, what's the worst that could happen if you choose to believe, right? If you're wrong at the end of the day, you're either wrong one way or the other. And so I'd rather have some hope in something bigger than myself.
So did the great French philosopher
Mm-hmm.
Pascal Bet. If you believe in God, great, you'll go to heaven. But if you go down and there is, but if you believe there's a God, you're going to hell, pal. What happens is you're wrong. There you go. You dare you that with one of the great minds of France. Well, thank you, Annabella. I couldn't have picked a better spokesperson with your history background and how articulate you are. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for having me. I'm also a former New Yorker, so I'm very excited to be here with you tonight and enjoy Rome.
Okay, I will. I mean, most of my relatives. It is true.
Is that true? Is that true?
Like most of the people here
Are
look
you
like
just
my
saying
uncle.
Are you just saying that? No, they don't. I'm
Yeah, they
wondering
look
if I
like
went
my.
to Italy, if I would see someone and be like, that looks like the mayor.
Yeah, you see people that make.
Yeah, I bet you're right. There's probably some truth to that.
No, not all. Only because half north, half south. But Rome is like New York City. People Romans like Showtime. Roman, born here, lived here, educated here. But half of Rome are people from other parts of Italy or Europe. It's a very, as is Milan. Those are two cosmopolitan Italian city. It's hard to really see the business nature of this city, which is substantial, because it's so overwhelmed in beautiful monuments. Even more sense of ancient. Some people will say Paris is a pretty. I don't think it is, but I'm prejudiced. Paris is a creature of Julius Caesar. It was created by Rome. And Latin, which is the Roman language. Conquered and civilized originally by Caesar, and his success and that maybe war dominating empire all of its years, 500 years. And then a lot of it got absorbed by the Roman Church. In a way, the organizational system, the spread of Christianity easier because Catholicism, because at the time the East was Roman, and when the Roman Empire fell in Rome, it was reestablished in Constantinople, and it lasted there for a while, and then the Holy Roman Empire lasted into the Middle Ages. So disproportionate effect on which all is, you want to use the word in the truth, so better ideas and better things. Is the most literal in terms of 80% of it is in most nations, a lot of it is gone. But because of the Dark Ages, because the monks sat in monasteries and they reprinted religious, but all of the texts. So why do we have this this horrible otherwise we wouldn't have it. We have it because we're trying to kill Western civilization. That work hard. In which the son of Odysseus calls him daddy. You really think that was the majesty of Homer trying to create? You don't think that Odysseus was called father? Who invented the idea of the Trojan horse to save Greece? You think when he the little guy who plays terrible desecration of a great I think they have trans gender people in it. I remember the Odyssey. I read it a long time ago in school. I actually I'm going to reread it. I don't think they have any trans on the Odyssey. I don't think. Let me tell you how she was progressive. I have for a very maybe when it was first used by the Democrats, the liberal Democrats, progressive. There were ideas even before they were communist and subversive, tested and failure, repeating the same things years, and when they get a chance to govern, they fail terribly. Witness Carter couldn't change how he governed. Not halfway through, 2 years in, because by Congress, and he co-opted policy, so they didn't beat him. Democrat completely. Obama's years were disastrous, and Biden catastrophic. So I don't know why there's this. Why there are any Democrats left? They should have started a new party. But there's a doctor natalist, and he testified in front of a congressional committee, and he was asked if any non-biological woman had a baby. All right, has any non-biological woman ever had a baby? He answered, a transgender person can. That's a woman who thinks she's a male. Doesn't that prove our point? That there are only two real sexes, two real genders, as the Bible says and every book of science says, until you Marxists got control. Now, you have a candidate in Michigan, Ted, who I understand you're very excited about. I don't know what he's ever done before, but sounds like this is their Mondami, their Elon Omar, although I don't think he's married to his sister. His name is Abdul El Sayed. He said that we don't have to. He would be in favor of defunding cops, but he has a new suggestion. He disarmed them. Cops shouldn't have to carry guns; they don't need them. Any comment on that? El Sayed, who is running to be the Democratic senator from, believes that cops shouldn't be armed. He thinks they should be defunded. But whatever small number are left, he doesn't think they need guns. Has he ever taken a look at how many cops get shot? How many cops get killed? You ever take a look at Chicago on a weekend? Or whoa. So is this guy really running to destroy America? Isn't that his goal? To create chaos, violence, and destruction of this great idea. If you have any doubt about it, he's running as a DSA candidate. The DSA, I saw an advertisement like this. I thought it was a joke, but this is actually part of their platform. And this Abdul El Sayed is running on this, and Mandami is a distinguished member of all those people he just elected. So they put out a manifesto, and this is workers. Here's what it calls for. It calls for getting to the government, getting to the Senate and the Electoral College, expand the House of Representatives, just gigantic, 800, 900. Now, these people who, from their point of view, hopefully will all be Mandamis and guys who want to disarm and defund the police, and people who like Hamas, and people who like the Iranian regime of with such a large House of Representatives, we would transform into a mini multi-party democracy. In which case, of course, they would be able to garner the most plurality support. The more you spread out the parties, right? This is the way these people want. Somebody asked me about America today here in Rome. Aren't you going way left? Yeah, well, 7% of us are, but they are utilizing that 7% vote in highly isolated, very isolated primaries where there's a very low turnout and an available requisite proportion of anti-American. So this abolition of the Senate, the Electoral College, the executive branch, and creating a large number of representatives would give them the maximum number of opportunities to find places like this and become, because of their position, a very powerful force. This is also a complete rejection of what it means to be America. It violates principles that Abraham Lincoln, your belief in of the rights of the states, protection of the rights of individuals, how those are protected by separation of powers, the Bill of Rights. To do away with separation of powers, it would and the elected 800 representatives, assuming monopoly, which would that could be taken over by the Chinese or by Muslim extremists. So that's the party they're running on. And people are going to vote for that. Zelensky, who is having what a decent amount or a great deal of success against the Russians lately and pushing Putin back. And it's hard to assess just how much pressure there is on Putin of people thinking he's going to be overthrown. I wouldn't jump that far yet. There are people saying that. But Zelensky did have a bit of a setback when he had to fire his Mikhailo Fedorov, who is credited, just recently appointed, but credited with accelerating the drone and the most drone program with drones that decimated, first of all, the invading Russian army, so that their casualties are down are at 8-1 Ukrainian, and second, credited with the drone that went 14 miles Russia and may be able to go as much as 2,200 miles into Russia, which makes 90% plus of the populated part of Russia now amenable to Ukrainian attack, and Ukraine has been disciplined about that, and they've used it to hit military and energy facilities, which of course supply the military. But they've done it to such an extent that there is a tremendous crisis in Russia with regard to the price of gasoline, the price of oil, continuation of electricity and energy, also to crime, which is now isolated and be taken back by the Ukrainians. This is all being done to push Putin to make some kind of reasonable offer of a settlement, which helps and hurts both sides, as opposed to like pro-Russian offers that he's put on the table. He's had with people disputes with some of us. He had all over the world. Up to this point, and suggest that any in the Putin armament, except that pressure only, and now he's sick, that he's ill, that he's going to be overthrown. I'm not ready to buy into those yet. I was ready to buy in, but factually represent to you that the is greater than it's ever been, and the fact that there's a war has been brought home to any aware Russian. That was not the case a year ago. That is a very situation. And it is my belief, educated belief, that Russia is not the monolith that some of these other dictatorships are. It's still a dictatorship. It's still not wise to bet against him. He's also, for whatever you think of his amorality, he also is a brilliant tactician. So much so that Xi Jinping used to look up to him, although there was an article the other day that is reversed and that he's become sort of Xi Jinping's boy now, having to do his bidding. The pride Putin has. This results in the change certainly isn't helpful. Fedorov was a great addition to a tired both group of troops and leadership who have been fighting that war for almost 5 years now. The leader, head of the army, is Lieutenant Colonel Yaroslavsky, and they're the two that were feuding with each other. And Yaroslavsky is tremendously well received by the troops, by the people, and has been in the ballgame. So Zelensky could choose reliable Dennis Yaroslavsky, and I'm sorry, General Alexander Zirsky. General Yaroslavsky controls the Ukrainian assault team, and he has commented kind of circumstances, but he did that the fallout has been very disheartening for the troops because these two guys have made the best team that Ukraine has put on the field. That is Fedorov and Syrsky. Syrsky, who is the top general, remains. Alexander Syrsky remains. And Mikhailo Fedorov has had to resign because of his feud with the top general, both of whom were seen as making unique contributions to the war effort against Russia. And it's a shame that Zelensky couldn't fix it. I don't think they necessarily blame it on Zelensky. We don't know. We don't know. Would a more skilled leader been able to fix it, or was this skilled leaders have personality conflicts below them that they can't fix either? They break it up. Sounds like that's what this was. It's a shame. It's a shame because it would seem to me that the issue of patriotism to Ukraine would overcome this. And they just get together. Particularly now when things are finally going a little bit right. So Mayor Mondami has a tremendous problem with homelessness. These people in office by keeping them on the street to death when any mayor in the last 50 years would have saved their lives, including many Democrats, by the policy that we had of taking people off the streets when it gets to be about freezing. That wasn't my policy. It wasn't Adams' policy. It wasn't de Blasio's policy. It wasn't Bloomberg's. It wasn't even Koch. It went back before Koch. And we all enforced it. He didn't. We don't know exactly how many died. They attribute about 18 people dead because New York was stupid enough to elect this useless communist, Islamic, extremist, terrorist supporter. And now he's got a homeless encampment that's growing day by day on Manhattan's West Side. He has now promised between the Intrepid Museum and the Javits Convention Center, and he's promised to remove it. He just doesn't say when. Every doesn't move it, disease spreads, people die, people get killed, people get knifed. Keep it going. Maybe you'll set a record for homeless death like you did for death by freezing. I mean, there isn't a place to go where people say to me, here in Rome, I should elect him. Mayor, how do you feel? Young Europeans even. They don't have anybody like that here. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they do. They certainly do in England in those Sharia towns. Senator Fetterman is grateful, and of people I know, purge. And it really is amazing how it seemed like he would be a terrible senator, and he's turned out to be. He seems even when you don't agree with him, he seems to be making it out of his view of what's best for nothing party, not even him. But he is now. They keep asking him, why does he remain a Democrat? He has no plans to abandon his party, he says. But if his fellow Democrats fully turn against U.S. support for Israel, that'd be it. That would be it. Party ever becomes and just makes it official, the anti-Israel party, that's when I would leave, because that's been a moral clarity for me. My long-term concern is that our party is going to back away and turn their back to Israel. I would submit, good Senator Fetterman, that your party has done that. My party has some people like Thomas Massey, who just offered some amendment to cut off aid to Israel. Has a few people like that, but we're kicking them out. Trump has campaigned against them. Trump has stood against them. Other parties stood against them, even where it comes to some of the people outside of elected politics who are anti-Semitic, like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owen. The president had very strong words for them. And we're the party that threw out the Nazi and went and campaigned for the Democrat. The Democrats embraced. They didn't throw him out because he was a Nazi. They didn't even throw him out because he raped a woman. They threw him out because he wasn't going to win the election, just like they did Swalwell. They didn't throw him out when he was having an affair with Fang Pang Bang, who was a Russian operative, a Chinese operative. They threw him out when he might screw up the election and get a Republican elected. Senator Gallego, friend of Fang Swalwell, looks like he's on his way out at the beginning, at least, or not just the beginning. They have now uncovered two relationships. He had one with a girl half his age who were Senate or House aides. Now, the hook that doesn't get him automatically thrown out is they weren't on his staff, they were on the staff of his colleagues. So he was trolling around the offices of his colleagues looking for girls to hit on. That's Ruben Gallego, the guy who was elected in California, which should have also told you there was something wrong with him if you get elected senator from California. Ethics Committee had dismissed a complaint against him brought by Representative Anna Paulino Luna, which alleged that campaign finance violations and sexual misconduct. And for some reason, they didn't find enough evidence there. But this appears to be admitted, having had affairs with two of his colleagues, aides, one of whom was half his age. Schumer's reaction to it was he's not concentrating on it right now. He's getting over his strong support for Plattner in Maine, and then his switching around on him and wanting to cut his throat, or his betrayal of Israel, which is continuing. Gallego has an interesting past. Gallego filed for divorce from his first wife, Kate, 10 days before Christmas in 2016, when she was 9 months pregnant. This Republican is Representative Abe Hamadeh from Arizona. This scumbag doesn't deserve the privilege of representing the people of Arizona. One guy, Chaffetz, Congressman Chaffetz, says Congress needs to step up. Guy. I think there's going to be more coming out on him, as there usually is. The Justice Department has begun an investigation of his use of campaign funds, particularly now focused on his attending the Super Bowl and taking vacation to St. Bart's, Disney World, and Disneyland. Usually that's the combination, right? Petty cheating, stealing, and, with and taking advantage of the young girls that work for Congress. Sounds like a typical Democrat profile. So, I'll bring you up to date on what my conclusions are after my 2 days, mostly with experts on Iran. Many of them involved with MEK, but many of them independent of MEK, and some of them Europeans. And first of all, the notion that Iran won the war doesn't exist anywhere but in the left-wing press and the New York Times. There isn't a single person, left or right, and we talked to some on the left, that thinks that Iran won the war. And I would say there's, if they have betting sites, I don't think there's anyone surviving. I think there's a division of opinion. It's immediate, meaning within the next 2 months, or this is a 1-year deterioration, and the more Trump deteriorates and degrades the quality of life in the country, which is will happen, because what ultimately causes the great revolutions, and that's economic conditions. That's what brought down the Soviet Union. That's what the French Revolution. In a way, so did ours, but it wasn't so much poverty as was the issue of taxes, but it was taking away our money, our control over our money, as well as our control on our rights. And we are an unusual revolution. We're one of the few revolutions and one of the few countries, if only country, based entirely on not entirely, very substantially on ideals. When people say, oh, the Civil War really was about other issues other than slavery, answer is yes, it was. But the primary issue driving the Civil War, the best proof of that is our morale was down to nothing in 1860. I don't know that it was losing a war, but some people thought it was. Lincoln probably thought that. Lincoln's chances of re-election were starting to look very, very slim. And Lincoln realized what he had to do was he had to bring the purpose back to war. And what did he do? Behind the Emancipation Proclamation. And what happened? His recruiting went way up, way, way up. And then he got Grant, and the rest is history. So I'll go back tonight. We'll finish in a moment here. I'll go back tonight and think about other examples of countries built on principle. Doesn't entirely principle, but it means that's the spine. That's the thing we can go back to, and that's the thing that unites us. And that's what the progressives, retrogressives, communists, Islamic extremists are trying to. They're trying to destroy They're trying to get us to think materially. The able to not believe in God, people who believe in God, people who have morality, people who have a sense of right and wrong, are people who are driven by principle. That is antithetical to this and to Islamic extremists, which is again what brings them together. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for bearing with us if we had some technical difficulties in our transmitting from Rome. You have a great weekend. I hope to go to Mass at the Vatican, and also or St. John Lateran, or one of the great basilicas. I'm trying to make up my mind. I've been to Mass in the Vatican. I don't know if you can go too often. So we have a very big debate here. Which should it be? I'm hoping to see an opera, which I'll report on to you on Monday, because I am, if you don't know it, a very major opera fan and consider myself somewhat of an expert. I tell people that in Italy, and I ask them to challenge me, because every once in a while I tell people I'm an opera expert, and they look at me, yeah, you're not an expert. Yeah, all right. Tell me, what was Puccini's last opera? Turandot, jerk. That was easy. Now ask me a tough question. So, Mr. President, God bless you for not listening to your critics and some of the people around you who tell you, forget about the past, put it behind you. It isn't just your past, this, it's the past of our country. If we don't reveal what we know, you and I and a few of us, about the election of 2020 and the riot of January 6th, which insider trading Pelosi had more to do with than any Republican. We're gonna betray the American people because we'll leave this country susceptible to what's happening again. 2020 should never happen again. January 6th should never happen again. But they got to understand what really happened. How many FBI agents were involved? How Pelosi and her Hollywood daughter subverted it, and all the things that the left-wing terrorist groups, domestic, were able to do to manipulate it. That story is going to come out also. For those Republicans who thought it's taking longer, it's not going to happen, of course it's going to take longer because it's got to be done right. These things you don't just pull them right out. And second, please trust Donald Trump. Hasn't he earned your trust enough by now? He should have, and he does. But we're going to pray for him because we all need your help, God, and he's just under more threat than anyone. I worry about him every day. If you don't, you're not being realistic. When they said there was this threat by the Iranians, I said, well, okay, one more. By the Iranians, they've been trying to kill him for years. Or anybody around them. Pray for the people of Iran and pray for the people of Israel who are people of the Middle East who are on the line right now. Pray for the people, particularly of Europe and Western Europe. So, God, this is, a lot of Christianity emerged from here, and this is probably the least Christian place now in the Christian world, meaning Western Europe. They need God back. Convert them. Ted, we'll see you on Monday. We'll see all of you on Monday. If we need to do anything, we're capable of.
That's right, Mayor. We'll address this, mate. We'll find a way to. I don't know if you'll be at a different hotel, but we'll figure out to make sure we don't have these glitches.
Yeah. I have
sticking
some
with us
ideas.
through them.
I have a few ideas.
I'll talk offline, but thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you very, very much, and have a great weekend. Remember to go to church. Remember to go to the synagogue. Pray. Be with your family. God bless America.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the kingdom of Great